All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going deep on Alison Esbuck's new novel, The Wedding People.
Ah, yes.
So, weddings, they're supposed to be all about love and celebration and all that.
Right, right.
But this book seems to be asking if maybe they're more than that.
Hmm.
Like, can they be, I don't know, kind of like a way for people to face some hard truths about themselves?
Yeah. I think that's a really an interesting way to put it.
And we've got a really in-depth review to help us out.
Okay,
So let's dive in.
let's do it. What I found really interesting is that, you know, Esbach, she uses this destination wedding. It's not your typical, like,
Right, right.
down the street wedding. It's destination. And she uses that as a way to, like, really explore what's happening beneath the surface.
Okay, so like you're saying there's more to it than meets the eye.
It's like the wedding itself almost becomes like a stage.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So where everyone is putting on a performance, trying to live up to, these expectations that society has created around marriage and happiness and all of that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that makes me think about, social media these days and how
Yeah.
everyone's always, putting their best foot forward, trying to show the highlight reel and not
Right, exactly. It's all very curated.
exactly. So do you think that's what Espik is like commenting on, like this whole kind of performative aspect?
Oh, absolutely.
I think the wedding setting really amplifies that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Think about it. You got people from all different parts of the characters' lives, like coming together,
Yeah.
family, old friends, colleagues, and they're all playing their sort of assigned roles
Oh, yeah.
in this grand production. But underneath those perfectly planned outfits in like, rehearsed smiles, there's a whole lot of messy reality that's kind of like
Yeah. Trying to break through.
that is so true.
Mhm.
It makes you wonder, like, what would happen if we all just,
Right.
took off the masks and just showed up as our true selves,
You know,
flaws and all.
flaws and all. Exactly.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what Escuff starts to kind of unpack through her characters. You've got Stella, the bride, this like really talented artist, but she's grappling with all these anxieties.
Okay, so she's not perfect.
She's not at all, about her career, about the pressure to have this perfect wedding. And then you got Ethan,
Right.
the groom, and, on the surface, successful financier seems to have it all,
Yeah, the classic story.
but secretly carrying the weight of his family's legacy
Oh,
on his shoulder.
so
So neither of them is quite what they seem. That is a great point. And then you bring in someone like Phoebe,
right.
Stella's old college roommate,
Yeah.
who, shows up kind of last minute,
Yeah.
fresh off a divorce.
Talk about
Oh boy.
a recipe for like
Yeah,
awkward encounters and,
Right.
and some serious self-reflection.
for sure.
Phoebe's presence is so important, I think, because she represents that kind of outsider
Yeah.
perspective. She's not caught up
Right.
in all the wedding frenzy.
Right.
So to can see things a little bit more clearly,
Right. She's not blinded by it all.
Exactly. And her experience as a divorce surrounded by all this supposed
Right.
marital bliss
Right.
really forces her and us as readers to question like those those societal expectations we place on ourselves, especially when it comes to relationships
Right.
and milestones.
Oh, for sure. So, okay, let me get this straight. We've got this like picture perfect setting,
Right.
a group of characters who are all kind of putting on a show,
Yeah.
and this tension, right,
Yeah.
between what's real and what people are presenting. So where do the other guests, fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get even more fascinating, right? Because each guest
Right.
kind of brings their own baggage to this wedding.
Their own little suitcase of
Yeah, their own secrets and struggles. You have like Ethan's sister Clara, who is secretly pregnant, right?
oh wow,
And she's terrified of repeating, the mistakes of their emotionally distant mother.
oh
And then there's Marco, who is, the flamboyant wedding planner battling burnout,
yeah, that makes sense.
questioning, their passion for the job after, facing discrimination. And then of course you got
Right, because he's
non-binary.
okay, right.
And then, of course, you have the arrival of Stella's estranged father,
Oh yeah,
Richard.
that's got to shake things up.
Oh, which throws everything into chaos.
Oh yeah, Richard, his sudden appearance really does change the whole dynamic.
Yeah, it does.
What really struck me about him though was that confession he makes. I thought leaving would make me someone else. it just made me alone.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
It's like it makes you wonder if running away from things ever really, really leads to self-discovery,
Yeah,
or if it just ends up, creating a different kind of emptiness.
right. It's a different kind of alone.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
such a powerful moment because it shows that, the choices we make, even the ones that we believe will lead to, like, self-improvement and
Right.
can have lasting consequences,
Yeah.
especially on the people we love.
For sure. And for both Richard, and Clara,
Yeah.
it seems like they're both trying to break free from,
Right.
these patterns of behavior that they learn from their family, but they end up
Yeah.
kind of repeating them
Yeah.
in different ways.
Exactly. And that speaks to, I think, the complexity
Right.
of family dynamics and how these relationships
Yeah.
really shape who we are, even when we try to resist them,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So much of what plays out over the course of this wedding weekend
Right.
really has its roots in the families these characters come from.
That's so true. And it makes you think about, like, how much of our own behavior,
Right.
is influenced by the families we grew up
It
in.
makes you wonder. Yeah.
And if we could ever really escape those influences,
Right.
or if we're just kind of destined to repeat them in some way.
Yeah, and Espache doesn't like shy away from that,
Right.
which is what makes the wedding people so compelling.
It really does. And it sounds like she's really diving deep into these characters' psyches, like you said,
Right.
showing us how their past is shaping their present.
Right. Yeah.
But the setting itself, the wedding, I mean, it's also a major character here.
Oh, absolutely.
Wouldn't you say it's not just a backdrop? It's almost like
It's a catalyst.
it's a catalyst for all of this,
Absolutely.
for all this introspection, this confrontation.
And the fact that it's a destination wedding
Right.
adds another layer to that, right? Everyone's kind of
Sweep
removed
them out of their element.
from their familiar routines and kind of forced to
Right.
confront these deeper truths about themselves and their relationships.
So it sounds like this wedding is less about celebrating love
Right.
and more about,
I think that's exactly what Espache is.
yes,
kind of.
facing some uncomfortable realities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's using this seemingly joyous occasion
Right.
to expose the cracks,
Yeah.
the cracks in the facade, the hidden anxieties and struggles, the things that we often try to kind of keep hidden,
Yeah.
especially during these big milestone events.
It's like she's saying, hey, look, even in the midst of all this supposed happiness,
Right.
there's not a lot of messy human stuff going on beneath the surface.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those messy human moments are often where
Right.
the real growth happens.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
SPAC is
Yeah.
forcing us to confront that, to see a wedding not just as a fairy tale ending,
Right. Not the end of the story.
but as a starting point for
Yeah.
a much more complex journey.
Exactly. Exactly. It's interesting you say that the wedding is kind of a starting point,
Yeah.
because I think that really ties into this idea of identity being in flux,
Mhm.
which the review highlighted.
Yeah.
A lot of the characters, it seems like they're at a crossroads,
Right. Yeah, that's
questioning,
adorable.
who they are, what they want.
Yeah, and that's where I think the novel really gets you thinking. You
Yeah.
see, like, characters like Marco, who is, really struggling with their identity, as a non-binary wedding planner
Yeah.
in an industry that can be, very
Right.
traditional,
Right.
even discriminatory at times.
Yeah.
And it makes you question, like, how much of our identity is shaped by,
Right.
the roles we play in society,
Yeah.
and how difficult it can be to break free from those expectations.
And then you have Phoebe,
Right.
who's going through this whole reevaluation after her divorce.
Right,
She built her identity around her academic career,
right,
and now that's not fulfilling her anymore.
right, yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what happens when those things that
Yeah.
used to define us don't hold the same meaning.
Right. And I think, a lot of people can relate to that,
Yeah.
especially, as we go through different stages of life.
Right.
It's like Esprit is suggesting that identity isn't static.
Yeah.
It's this ongoing
Right.
process of evolution or reinvention.
It is. That makes me think about that quote from the review
Yeah.
that really, really stuck with me. Phoebe wondered if happiness was just a series of well-timed photographs,
Hmm.
All smiles and no context.
Yeah. How
It's
awful.
like we're so caught up in presenting this perfect image of ourselves
Right.
that we forget to actually, like, you know,
Yeah, we forget to live.
live authentically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that quote like perfectly captures
Yeah.
that tension between the facade and the reality
Right.
that Espeter is exploring.
Right.
You know, these characters, they're all trying to fit into these predetermined roles, these ideas of what success, what happiness is supposed to look like. But it's leaving them
Yeah.
feeling empty and unfulfilled.
Yeah. And the wedding itself
I
becomes kind of this simple.
Yes, absolutely. It's like she's holding up a mirror to society's obsession with these
Yeah.
idealized milestones and asking us to consider, what we're sacrificing in
Yeah.
pursuit of them.
It's funny because, I was just talking to a friend
Yeah.
who was getting married soon,
Okay.
and she was saying, how overwhelmed she
Yeah.
feels by all the expectations, the
Right.
pressure to have this perfect wedding.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
everyone has an opinion
Right.
about how it should be,
Yeah.
and she's lost sight
Yeah.
of what, she and her partner
Yeah.
actually want.
It's so easy to get caught up in that, especially with
Yeah.
social media constantly bombarding us with these curated images of perfection.
Yeah.
But I think, Esposh is reminding us that true happiness comes from being authentic to ourselves,
Yeah.
not trying to live up to some
Right.
external ideal.
Right. And that's where I think the power of literature
Yeah.
comes in.
Oh, absolutely.
It allows us to step outside of ourselves.
Right.
See the world through these different perspectives.
Yeah.
And maybe even gain some insights into our own lives.
Right.
Right.
And The Wedding People does that so brilliantly.
Yeah.
It's not just a story about a wedding.
Yeah.
It's a story about the human condition.
Yeah.
About the choices we make, the relationships that shape us, and this
Right.
ongoing search for meaning and connection.
It is. It really is. And Espek does it with such a sharp yet tender voice.
Yeah.
The review mentioned
Yeah.
that she could be, witty,
Yeah.
satirical, but
Yeah.
also deeply empathetic.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about her writing style?
Sure.
And how she balances those different tones?
Yeah. What I find so impressive about Espo's writing is her ability to capture both, the humor and the heartbreak
Yeah.
of life.
Right.
She can make you laugh out loud
Yeah.
1 minute
Yeah.
and then completely break your heart the next.
Right.
And she does it all with this beautifully
Yeah.
evocative language that really draws you into the story.
The review mentioned that ballroom scene
Oh yeah.
where she describes the setting as glowing like a jewel box,
Yeah.
all chandeliers and velvet,
Right.
but the air tasted of rain and unfinished arguments.
Yeah.
I love that juxtaposition of
It's so vivid.
external beauty and internal turmoil.
Yeah, it's such a vivid image, and it perfectly encapsulates, I think,
Right.
the overall tone of the novel.
Yeah.
On the surface, everything looks,
Right.
glamorous, perfect,
Right.
but underneath there's this,
Right.
simmering tension, this
Yeah.
unease,
Yeah.
and Espu uses, sensory details like that throughout the book to
Right.
create these incredibly immersive
Yeah.
experiences for the reader. You're
Yeah.
not just reading about these characters. You're feeling what
Yeah.
they're feeling. You're tasting the air,
Yeah.
hearing the music,
Yeah.
sensing the undercurrents of emotion,
Right. Right.
that are swirling around them.
Like you're right there at the wedding, experiencing it.
Exactly. And that's what makes her
Yeah.
writing so captivating. It's not just telling a story. It's creating a world
Yeah.
that you can fully
Right.
inhabit and explore.
Yeah. So we've talked about the characters,
Mhm.
the themes, the writing style.
Right.
But there's another element of the novel
Yeah.
that I think is worth exploring.
Okay.
And that's this idea of forgiveness.
Hmm.
It's not explicitly stated, but it seems to be kind of
Yeah.
woven throughout the story,
Yeah.
particularly in the relationships.
Yeah.
Between Stella and Richard,
Right.
and Clara and her family.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah.
And it's something that really, really resonated with me as well. You
Yeah.
see these characters struggling to
Yeah.
come to terms with past hurts,
Right.
betrayals,
Yeah.
and ultimately it's through forgiveness,
Right.
both of themselves and others, that they're
Yeah.
able to find some measure of peace and move forward.
It makes you wonder if forgiveness is almost like the key
Mm.
to unlocking real happiness,
Yeah.
both within ourselves and in our relationships with with other people. I mean,
Right.
can you ever really move on from the past if you're holding on to
Right.
it?
It's a complex question.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, Espich handles it beautifully in The Wedding People. She
Right.
doesn't, offer any easy answers,
Right. Right.
but she shows us the messy,
Yeah.
often painful process
Right.
of forgiveness and how it
Yeah.
can ultimately lead to heal and growth.
And it's not just about forgiving others,
Oh,
right?
no,
It's
absolutely.
it's also about,
Yeah.
forgiving ourselves
Right.
for the mistakes we've made, the choices we regret.
A lot of these characters are carrying around this guilt, this shame that's
Right.
holding them back
Yeah.
from really truly living their lives. And
Right.
it's only when they're able to kind of confront those feelings
Right.
and offer themselves, some compassion
Yeah.
that they can start to move forward.
It makes you realize, like, how much we can be our own worst critics,
Oh, it's so true.
wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like, we hold ourselves to these
Right.
impossible standards.
Yeah.
And when we, inevitably fall short,
Right.
we beat ourselves up about it.
It's true. And I think, The Wedding People offers a
Yeah.
really powerful message
Yeah.
about the importance of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
characters, they're all, flawed in
Right.
their own ways.
Right.
But it's those imperfections that make them, relatable.
Right.
And ultimately sympathetic. Spiction seems to be saying it's okay to not be perfect.
Right.
That our flaws are part of what
Yeah.
make us human.
And maybe like embracing those flaws
Right.
rather than trying to hide them is what allows us to, really connect
Right.
with others on a deeper level.
Yeah.
It's like those moments of vulnerability when we let our guard down
Yeah.
and show our true selves
Right.
that create real intimacy.
I think that's one of the most important takeaways
Yeah.
from this novel. It's a reminder that we don't have to
Yeah.
pretend to be something we're not.
Right.
That true connection comes from authenticity, from vulnerability, and sometimes it takes an event like a wedding,
Yeah.
with all its forced injections and heightened emotions
Right.
to break down those walls and reveal who we really are.
So if you're looking for a novel that'll make you laugh, make you cry, and make you think about
Yeah.
the big questions in life,
Yeah.
I highly recommend The Wedding People.
I second that.
It's a beautifully written, insightful exploration of human relationships,
Yeah.
societal expectations, and the search for meaning and connection.
And if you've ever attended a wedding or even just imagined yourself at one,
Right.
this book will definitely resonate with you.
Yeah,
It captures the complexities of
Yeah.
those events
for sure.
in a way that a few other novels do.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those deep questions about authenticity,
Yeah.
forgiveness, and what it really means to be happy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Wedding People.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another insightful exploration of something fascinating. Until then, keep diving deep.